Okay, if you take a look at the two problems we put up on the board, these come off of your homework tonight, number 6 and number 8. And today in class we talked about solving equations that not only had the variable on both sides of the equation, but also involved using some distributive property and maybe even clearing some fractions. Okay, so these are multi-step equations, and just like we practice in class, remember if you go step by step through the routine that we discussed, these equations are no more difficult than doing just the one-step and two-step equations. It's just taking them one step at a time. So the first thing we want to do here is clear these parentheses using the distributive property. Remember, distributive property says everything inside the parentheses gets multiplied by the term outside of the parentheses. So let's go ahead and do that. Negative 6 times x, negative 6x. Negative 6 times negative 1. You want to watch your signs here. Remember, you always take the sign with the term. This is a negative 6 times a negative 1 gets you a positive 6. Then on the left side, we also have to subtract 7. Those are like terms. We're going to combine those in just a minute. Equals negative 7x plus 2. Okay, so right here I got a positive 6 and a negative 7. We should combine those like terms. If we combine a positive 6 and a negative 7, we end up with a negative 1. So let's make this negative 6x minus 1 equals negative 7x plus 2. So now we're at that point where we have an equation with a variable on both sides. We were doing these last week. Remember, we should move the variable that has the lower coefficient. That way we avoid the negative numbers. Since I have negative 7x and negative 6x, negative 7 is less. So let's get rid of the negative 7x by adding 7x. Remember, whatever we do to one side of the equation, we got to do to the other side of the equation also. That's how it stays balanced. And negative 6x's plus 7x gives you 1x minus 1 equals 2. And you notice now you're at your old friend, the two-step equation. Because your coefficient is 1 here, you're really a one-step equation. We want to get this x by itself. Let's undo this subtraction by adding 1 to both sides. And that leaves us with 1x equals 3. You can check your answer by plugging it into the original equation. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. And negative 12 minus 7 would be negative 19. We plug in a 3 up here. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Negative 21 plus 2 is also negative 19. And negative 19 equals negative 19. So we know our answer is good. Take a look at problem number 8 here. A couple things about this one. One, you notice this negative sign outside of your parentheses. You actually have to distribute this negative sign, or if you want, you could put a 1 there. That's a negative 1 times the quantity 4 minus x. But before we worry about that, we've got this fraction here. And remember our first step, since I don't want to try and multiply by a fraction, let's clear this fraction. And the way we clear fractions is by multiplying by the lowest common denominator or least common multiple of the denominators. And since there's only the one denominator here, 4, we're going to multiply everything on this side of the equation by 4. And when I do that, 4 cancels out that 4, and you've eliminated your fraction. I've just multiplied all of this by 4. So now I have 3 times the quantity x minus 6. But because I multiplied this side of the equation by 4, I need to do the same thing over here and multiply. Remember, that was a negative 1. So let's multiply that by the 4. And now I have negative 4 times the quantity 4 minus x. All right, take a look at what we just did there. That was multiplying both sides of the equation by 4 to clear this fraction. 4 times 3/4, the 4's cancel each other out. You're left with 3 times the quantity x minus 6. And 4 times the negative, or negative 1, gave you negative 4 times the quantity 4 minus x. Using your distributive property now, everything inside the parentheses gets multiplied by the term outside. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. negative 4 times negative 1x gives you a positive 4x's. Watch those signs. Negative 4 times negative 1, positive 4. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 6, negative 18. You got an equation with the variable on both sides. 4x is here, 3x is here. 3x is less. Let's get rid of the 3x's. Subtract 3x's from both sides. Negative 16 plus x equals negative 18. Trying to get this x by itself, we want to get rid of this negative 16. We need to add 16. Add 16 to both sides gives you x equals negative 2. There's your solution. These equations do involve a few extra steps, but if you follow those steps carefully, you can continue to get correct answers, get practice.